I told y'all that we won the game handily. It was never in doubt. It was 2 scores, even in the fourth quarter. You may not like it, but we told you Stetson was going to throw 5 passes. We were going to run the ball, and we came out with a victory, and we're still undefeated. And guess what? We've won how many games for the second year in a row?
Let's talk about
in
that.
The SEC.
Let's talk more about that
right after we get back here on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is yet another Victory Saturday night episode, another recording in the W column for the Georgia Bulldogs. Listen, thanks to LinkedIn, by the way, for sponsoring this episode. We love LinkedIn, and I'm sure you do as well. You know what else I love? I love these Georgia Bulldogs, Clint. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're kind of a big deal. And listen, I'm just going to get it out of the way right up at the beginning. If you're here for what you anticipate to be a little negative talk from this guy right here, a little, I'm not satisfied with this. Georgia let me down in this area. If you're here for that, you might as well just matriculate on somewhere else because
you stop right now.
He ain't coming here today, Clint.
Did you take a shovel to the back of his head, Daniel? Because that's the Daniel I know.
He did.
Okay.
He did. We need to talk about some things, Clint. We're going to talk about this Georgia-Kentucky game.
Sure.
But first, we need to talk about something bigger.
Can I frame this really quick? I want to basically lob some things up to you, Dan.
Let's just hit me with some facts.
College football. Highly competitive, Daniel.
A lot of parity, a lot of turnover.
One of the most competitive sports in the entire nation. 2, the SEC is the cream of the crop as it pertains to one of the most competitive athletic things in all of America.
Yep.
The best.
That's the best league there is.
Okay. 3.
Okay, say more.
SEC schools would run through Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12, ACC schools.
And regularly do when they play.
And regularly do. And 4.
Say.
Kirby Smart and Georgia Bulldogs have gone undefeated
Here we go.
2 years in a row in the greatest conference of the greatest sport in America.
The dynasty is right here.
It's here.
In Athens, y'all. This is the dynasty. This is the standard. Locked On Bama podcast. Why don't you come on here and talk to us about the standard in the SEC?
I got a draft of a tweet that has Luke Robinson in there. I'm coming for you, Luke. You laughed at me when I said we're the standard.
We're the dynasty.
Yes, sir.
We're the standard.
Yes, sir.
We are the immovable object in college football. Clint, it has been 742 days since Georgia has lost an SEC regular season game.
Seems significant.
742 days. We don't have another SEC regular season game for another 301 days from now, which means when we play South Carolina on September 16th of 2023, it will have been 1,043 days since Georgia has lost.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, we ain't losing that one either. So we just keep on keeping on. In that time frame, Clint, 742 days. Just to frame some perspective for you,
Give it
listeners.
To the people that need to hear this. Georgia fan that was mad at this game at Kentucky.
You're mad because we scored 16 points against. You're mad.
Okay, first of all, again, we told you every year Stoops is head coach of Kentucky. This is the game.
Don't be mad.
Stop being mad and embrace the facts that Daniel's about to spit out right now.
Since Georgia lost its last SEC regular season game,
Florida,
your biggest rival, has lost 13 SEC regular season games.
Daniel, I was going to come with this stat.
13 you've lost none in the
what?
last 742 days.
So again, to be clear, 0 losses
Is less than 13.
Okay.
Alabama, the team that thinks that they're in the same class as us.
You're not.
They've lost 3 regular season SEC games since Georgia has last lost 1. 3 in that same time frame. Kirby Smart in the last 6 years is 34-2 against the SEC East, Clint. We're not talking about one recruiting class here. We're not talking about a Cam Newton transcendent football player that carries your program, a Tim Tebow sort of player that just carries your program.
So again, objection 1, Kirby can just recruit. False. He's recruited many classes and dominated with every single one of them throughout years. 2, it takes a generational talented QB to transcend and win for other coaches. Oh, that's just them, not us. Okay.
No. Yeah. And it doesn't have staying power. Kirby can't sustain it because he's not an elite level. 6 years, 34-2 against the most important games on Georgia's schedule every single year. We're not going anywhere. We are the dynasty in college football, and Georgia fans, you are living in it. For my older listeners listening to the podcast, you've been somewhere wonderful with this Georgia franchise, with this Georgia institution. And there's no institution more worthy.
No, sir.
You've been somewhere wonderful, but let me just explain to everyone listening. No matter how old you are, no matter how much Georgia football you've seen, you are currently living in the heyday of Georgia football. There has never been a moment like this one for the University of Georgia.
Currently, like you thought last year.
You're right smack dab
We're
in the middle of it.
It's not plateauing. It's not declining. We are ascending. We took the natty, and all we've done is continue to ascend from that point.
Literally. So, Georgia fans, just embrace it. Just soak it in. This is what we have waited for so long, and it is finally here. And there is no team that can say anything to the Georgia Bulldogs. There's no team that can talk any trash to your team, because all your team has done is dominate everyone in its path.
And again, if you think this Kentucky game wasn't domination, I beg you to look at Stoops on the sideline during every moment of the game, literally from the kickoff.
He may have saved his job today, by the way.
He did.
He may have saved his job.
I agree. He saved
All
his
right,
job.
let's talk about this Kentucky game. Let's break it down. Let's overreact to some things right after Clint tells you about this.
But first, we'll let you know about LinkedIn. This is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your place to find the best candidate.
Where's that LinkedIn? There it is.
There it is. I don't know if you heard about them.
Clint, I've heard of LinkedIn.
Thank you. I was just going to ask you, because LinkedIn is the best place to find the right candidate for your job. Stop doing the weird interviews. Stop going through all the resumes. Stop going through all the filters of all the places that you're just meeting random people. It's like dating in a bar when you're single in your 40s. It's not a good look for anybody.
It's not.
Instead, LinkedIn's the better look for these candidates. It's going to get the right candidate to the right person or the right job to build your team up. And right now, you can get a free posting, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege.
All right, Clint, I'll be fully honest with you. I was leading into that ad read, and all of a sudden, I caught sight of that mustache, and it rattled me. It rattled me. I'm not going to lie to you. If you're listening on audio right now, T's and P's to you, because YouTube is the place to be. I don't know if YouTube is the place to be, but if you are listening on audio, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, we love you. Thanks for listening over there. Maybe peep on over to the YouTube for a minute. Okay, let's talk about this. let's talk about this Kentucky game.
Yes.
Because I thought there were a lot of positives in this game to take away from. So I actually only have one thing that I think Georgia still needs to clean up coming out of this game.
Okay.
And it's not the thing that maybe some of y'all are thinking that it is, but let's start with the positives, Clint.
Okay, let's do it.
The run game looked way better today. And you could tell it was a point of emphasis. You could tell that Todd Monken was doing a little bit of what we talked about. He was trying to tune this offense up. He was trying to get things up and running. He does not view this game as a practice game, so to speak, but he does view it as an opportunity, this game and the Georgia Tech game next week, as opportunities to get things where they need to be for the three most important games of Georgia's season, which are coming up in December and early January. So you saw the run game get back on track. You saw the offensive line, I thought, play admirably. But, Clint, I want to talk about these backs. I want to talk about these running backs because to a man, they are running hard. And I think earlier in the season, you were ready to say that Branson Robinson was maybe RB3 on this team. But Kendall Milton really showed us something today.
Look, I'm going to let you brag about – this is the positive segment. I'm going to let you brag about Kendall Milton because I'm still mad about, again, the thing that made me very upset about Zeus last year was his lack of vision. I never doubted his running ability or his contact. I always doubted his vision. And if he went – Kendall, if you went right off of Jalen, it's a touchdown. If you went –
That's correct.
Okay. So but to your point, they ran hard. He was running hard. He was hitting contact and falling forward. Kenny McIntosh –
looks like
this is possible.
He looks like a stud.
I don't know how this is possible. Somebody scientific explain to me density versus mass a little bit more because the man plays like he has a sledgehammer of 300 pounds in his shoulder pads.
Don't waste your time trying to explain physics to my man over there. That is if you were typing out a tweet as he was talking, just let me delete that. Just delete that. That ain't going anywhere. Okay.
What you reading for? But he weighs, I don't know what they have him listed at. That man plays above his weight in a lot of ways.
Well, it's because he's got speed, and he doesn't just use his speed to be elusive, which he is very elusive. He uses his speed to be powerful as well because he'll run right into you.
My hot take is this, Daniel, and I don't know what you're going to say about this, and I don't know what listener you're going to say about this. We had prior years, Kirby had one great back and a couple of other guys behind him after Chubb and Gurley. After Sony and everybody went. But here's what I want to say. I think he's better than DeAndre Swift. I'm not trying to be. I honestly think he is better than Swift.
I kind of agree with you. Total package.
Yes,
total package of what he brings. I think Swift is still probably a better runner than him. But I think total package, I don't disagree with you. And it's what's been so frustrating with this running game not being able to always find it this year. I don't necessarily disagree with you on that take whatsoever. I thought the perimeter blocking in this game was good. I loved a lot of what I saw out of this Georgia team. Clint quit the podcast. Oh, he's back. Nope, he quit the podcast for just a second, but now he's back. I loved a lot of what I saw out of this Georgia team. What was the main positive takeaway, Clint, that you came away from Saturday with?
Here's what I came away with, and you're not going to like this, Georgia fan, because a lot of you I saw tweeting just how deplorable our defense was getting gashed on large pass plays. There was 3 of them of note that went for 40 or plus. Okay, Daniel, I ask you, can you explain to me the main goal of footballing? How do you win a game again?
You score more points than the other team.
Okay, you score more points. So if I'm breaking that down into, there's the meta, if I'm going level 2, stopping them from scoring points.
Well, that would be one thing.
That would be good, would it not?
That's what the defense's goal, I think, is.
And scoring more points on offense than we give up on. Okay, the defense gave up 1 TUD.
Yep.
The whole game.
Yep.
With some very, very very limited offensive play calling that we said was going to happen, and Todd was clearly trying to tune them up.
Let me just, if I may interject, because I think that's the thing that people assume that I'm going to come on here and say the one thing Georgia's got to clean up is the back end of the secondary, because we got hit over the top and we got, Will Levis, and, he threw the ball downfield against us. And that did happen. But there's no way that you've been watching Georgia football all year if you think the back end of this defense needs to get cleaned up. There's just no way you've been paying any attention. That's why it doesn't give me a pause for concern, Clint. That's why it's not because this was a circumstance, a time, place, circumstance type of a situation. This is not a systemic issue for this Georgia defense. This is not something that we have struggled with on an ongoing basis. If you recall, the last team to really hit us for big plays over the top was South Carolina. They hit us for some big plays over the top.
Yep.
But Georgia has not really struggled with that on an ongoing basis, and that's why it does not give me pause at all. I thought this defensive front played incredibly well in this game. Michael Williams is a dude.
Thank you. This is my second point. Don't be Gary Danielson on CBS that said, well, Georgia, no sacks today. Really?
Oh, my gosh. Please stop saying the word sack.
Pressure, because you talk about quick release. I heard him say quick release a dozen times about Levis.
Also, we did have a sack, and they got called back for hands to the face.
That's right. It was
how they.
And then right when Gary said that, Bullard came up with a sack. So that's how it happened.
Javon Bullard, Kamari Lassiter.
Here, you're hitting the three guys I wanted to talk about. The three guys. Lassiter's a dude, and if you, I tweeted out. Keely Ringo has not played well. He makes insane plays every once in a while.
They went right at him first series of the game. And he got burned. And then he came back and Keely Ringo to fool later on in the first half. That's what you're getting from Keely Ringo this year. You're getting a hot and cold situation. You're not getting that from Kamar. You're not getting that from three.
Lassiter is a dude that loves to bang. Talk about another dude. Kenny McIntosh and Lassiter might be having the same gym routine because they playing 50, 60 pounds above their weight. They are punching up in class and still with it. And then lastly, Michael Williams is going to be, when all is said and done, one of the best edge rushers in Georgia history because he is a true freshman in the SEC, and he is wrecking fools like Jalen Carter did a couple of years ago. I promise you.
Once he gets the staying power and he's going to be on the field for all these snaps. Also, I mean, we got more time this week to talk about, but sometime this week, Clint, we need to touch on 11, Walker, because all of a sudden he coming on acting like, oh, this playing time right here that y'all thought was going to be somebody else's, it belongs to me. I'll take it.
Ryan Davis might have lost a lot of snaps. I
mean, he's still out there in the game, but like the rotation is...
It's shrinking.
It's shrinking, yeah. There's a lot of guys that...
Do women know about... Never mind.
What?
Nothing.
Okay. All right. Well, let's segue out of whatever that was. Good Lord, the segues into the ad reads today, Clint. All timers.
Right after this. Here we go.
All right, Clint, just take us home. Get us out of here. What are we doing next?
BetOnline is what we're doing next. We're going to come back right after this, but BetOnline is your sports book experts. They have everything that you need to bet on games.
They do.
And if you could find a line on LSU, whatever it is, lay them points.
Lay them on the first Saturday in December. Lay them.
BetOnline, your sportsbook experts, the official sportsbook of Locked On Bulldogs, as well as Locked On Podcasts everywhere. Your team every day. They have over-unders, season win totals that I'm about to cash, that large, hefty deposit.
They gave us a 10.5 for Georgia. They let us bet the over on 10.5. It cashed today, by the way. Congratulations to you.
I said, you sure about that? You sure?
Congratulations to you and all of us because that 10.5 just cashed.
BetOnline, your sportsbook experts.
All right, Clint, I want your take on this because I'm not going negative town here. This is a win that Georgia should savor. They should relish it. I mean, we're looking at a Saturday, which we're still in the middle of the day here. We've not watched the evening slate of games, but we're looking at a Saturday where Ohio State struggles, Michigan struggles, TCU struggles. A lot of weird things have been happening so far this Saturday. Georgia goes on the road. They get a win. The game was never in doubt. There was never a moment when Kentucky had the ball down by one score.
Never.
At a significant moment in this game. There was never a time when you had to be nervous, Georgia fans. And by doing it, they have another perfect SEC slate. Again, there's so much to like about this team. So I'm not going negative, Tim.
Okay.
But I do want to bring up what I do think is the one glaring thing that this Georgia team has got to figure out as it moves forward and faces stiffer competition. And that is the Kirby Death March. Clint, we've got to talk about it.
By the way, I'll say it again. Put some love to your boys' way on that.
Now listen, we've been that's what I was going to say. We have been the main proponents of the Kirby Death March trademark. Sure. Kirby loves this. He loves to put his foot on somebody's throat and just choke the life out of them as he moves the ball down the field. Dejan Edwards has been famous for it. We've seen it. We've seen it a lot over the last 6 years. But Clint, consistently, this is now the third week in a row I'm bringing this up. This is why the deep secondary doesn't give me any problem, because that's not something we consider. You go back to the Tennessee game. You go back to the Mississippi State game. You go back to the Kentucky game today. You go back to several different points during the season. Georgia needs a first down.
Correct.
They need to get a first down to bleed the clock to win the game. And what do? Time after time after time, they fail to do so. They punt the ball back. They give the ball back, put their defense in a compromised situation, having to make another stop. That defense has played way more snaps than it should have played so far this season. Kentucky should have never seen the field again at the end of that game. We should have salted that thing away. And when Stetson ran out to the right and had that 10-yard gain, I thought, okay, this is it. This is the death march. And then 3 plays later, it's 4th and 1, and here we are punting again multiple times on the goal line. You mentioned Kendall Milton earlier. This team is stopped in short yardage situations. There is a problem with the Kirby Death March, and I am curious as to your thoughts on that problem and whether or not you see a potential solution in sight.
Here's the potential solution. And Daniel, this is going to sound so weird. The problem is Kirby knows he's too smart for his own good, Daniel. This is interesting. This is the problem. I don't know if you have friends in your life like this, but you know that friend that is just...
I do. I promise you, I do not have friends in my life that have ever been accused of being too smart for anything.
I'm very, very glad to call Daniel my closest friend.
Do not tweet this man about physics, is what I'm trying to tell you. Do not tweet this man about physics. We're not...
I feel so warm right now. I feel so loved. The person is too smart for their own good is Kirby, because he knew coming in this game. I think the whole game plan, I think he knows Stoops so well. He has Stoops in a body bag before the week begins. He has that taken care of. He knows exactly what to do at all times. And I think what happens to him is that he is telling Monk, and they're preparing the whole entire time. He's telling the team, he's getting everybody in the mentality. He's getting Monk in the mentality and the offensive coaching staff in the mentality of, if we're up by 2 scores, the game is toast. The game is over. And this kind of, and he's right most of the time, except the time where it doesn't work, except the time where
that's what I'm trying to say.
Variable and it's moving always. And there's nothing as definitive as objective truth as it pertains to, again, varying odds that are constantly changing. Ecosystems don't always stabilize like Kirby thinks they do, Daniel. There's no homeostasis within football. It is always. I'm just trying to hit you.
Man is working so hard. You see the sweat? You see the sweat beginning to form on his brow?
I'm trying to. I'm recalling 101 and 201 classes I haven't thought of in decades.
It's the one knock that you could really make against this Georgia team is that they have not accelerated to the finish line the way that you would like to see. They've not put teams away. They have let teams hang around. Yeah. And yes, they've won by multiple scores. They've won by double digits. They've won comfortably. But when you're in the playoff and you're up by 10 points or 8 points and you're driving with 4 minutes to go and you can't convert those third and fourth downs,
but
you're playing with fire.
But this is why it should help you, Dog fans. You're right. When you look at lesser teams like Kentucky and you say, here's what they're going to do, we're going to take care of business. That's all well and fine, except variables come, turnovers come. We're still winning. We're losing the turnover margin, but we're winning games, which is the weirdest thing in football. That's a cardinal sin in football, Daniel.
It's unheard of.
It's unheard of. Thank you. That's how good we are. I think when we play the stiffer competition, Kirby's "I'm too smart for my own good" is going to help, because look at Michigan last year. I was on this podcast saying I was afraid of Aiden Hutchinson. I was terrified.
Oh yeah, the pass rush going to kill us.
That was neutralized all game long.
Real quick.
So,
by the way, how many rookie offensive linemen are better than Jamari Sawyer?
We tried to tell you.
We tried to get on here and tell you idiots.
I was on draft shows, and again, I got laughed on draft shows saying Jamari Sawyer is going to be one of the best offensive linemen in this entire draft. And I'm like, well, measurables. Well,
cool.
He can just ball. How about that? Is that a measurable? He balls. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I think it's going to help when we
very measurable. It's very measurable. Some more than others. Some more than others.
We call it overreaction. Okay, Daniel, there was a pool. He went swimming.
Third segment listeners, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here. All right, listen. We still got a lot of football. Clint and I got to watch a lot of football left tonight.
A lot of football.
We're going to be back on Tuesday, maybe Monday. I don't know when. We're going to be back early this week breaking down everything that's happened on this crazy Saturday. There's a crazy Saturday in college football, and we're going to be talking all about it. But nothing's going to change this statement. Georgia's the best team in college football.
Yep.
And whoever you think the second best team is, they ain't Georgia, and they ain't close. So, Dog fans, the hay's not in the barn yet. We still got to win 4 more games. But you got to feel good about your squad and where you are right now when you think about the landscape of college football and this team. We'll be back to talk all about it here on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast as we get ready for Georgia Tech on a holiday week. Join us again on Tuesday for that.
I'm just letting my man hang out here.
I just thought there was something else I was supposed to be saying. No, there's not. All right, we'll see y'all.